There is a situation that might sound like science fiction, but it's actually grounded in science. It's called the quantum immortality paradox, and it has some real mind-bending implications. It all starts with this idea called the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. This says that every time a quantum event occurs, the universe splits into different timelines, each representing a different outcome. So, when you flip a coin, there's one timeline where it lands on heads and another where it lands on tails. When you make a decision, there's one timeline where you choose one option and another where you choose the other. Now, we don't know how many dimensions there are or what they look like, but the theory says that each time a quantum event occurs, each possible outcome becomes its own separate universe. And yes, this means that every single possible outcome actually happens. Every time you flip a coin, there's a universe where heads wins out and a universe where tails does. There are infinite timelines, an infinite number of universes, and everything that could happen does happen in one of them. So here's the immortality paradox. If the many worlds interpretation is correct and everything that could happen does happen, then there must be one timeline where you survive to the end of the universe. You see, everything that happens in the universe happens at the atomic level. Your survival also happens at the atomic level. So, if the many worlds interpretation is right, there has to be one timeline where all the atoms that need to be in the right place for you to live out your full lifespan are in the right place. Because everything that could possibly happen does happen in one of these timelines. Your death is no exception. But from your perspective, you don't ever experience that one particular death. After all, you only experience the one you're actually in. But because everything that could happen does happen in one of these alternate timelines, this means that you never die. From your perspective, you are literally immortal. In one timeline, you get hit by a bus and die at 30. In another, you reach the end of your natural lifespan. In yet another, you eat too much candy and die of a sugar overdose. In another, you find the Philosopher's Stone and become immortal in real life. There's even one where you become a YouTube sensation by making videos about pocket universes. Okay, maybe not that one, but the point is everything that could happen does happen. So even though you only exist in one of those timelines, you are effectively immortal. This is what we call the quantum immortality paradox. It sounds crazy, but it's actually pretty simple once you break it down. Let's imagine that I flip a fair coin twice. There are, for possible outcomes, heads, 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 tails, 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 and heads. Let's say I get to heads in a row. Am I immortal? No. In fact, I can only live in this world for a little while longer. The next time I flip a coin, the probabilities will reset and I'll have new options. Maybe I'll rule the world as an immortal dictator. But either way, my immortality in this particular world is up. But let's imagine instead that I flip an unfair coin, one that lands on heads 99% of the time. Now, I flip it twice and get to heads in a row. Am I immortal? Well, in this case, I can keep flipping the coin and still never get tails. In fact, I could flip it forever and never get tails. I am immortal in this world. Now replace the word coin with quantum event. The math works out to be exactly the same. If there are lots of quantum events, then your chances of dying in any one of them are very low. But if there are only a few events left until the heat death of the universe, then one of them is bound to take you out. But because every possibility is realized in one of these parallel universes, the fact that you died in one of them doesn't change the fact that you're immortal. As far as you know, you've never died. Sure, there's a timeline where you did die, but from your perspective, you don't exist in that timeline. So it doesn't matter. You could go on living forever. Or you could get bored and start causing mischief in all the little worlds where you do die. Maybe in one of those worlds, you prevent your own death and live to the end of the universe. Maybe in another, you die a tragic death that kicks off a galactic war. Or maybe in another, you discover a way to transfer consciousness into computers and achieve digital immortality. And here's why the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics makes the most sense. If everything that could happen does happen, then it's only a matter of time before intelligent life forms start popping up everywhere. In fact, you could safely assume that there are other civilizations out there that have already achieved interstellar travel. But if there are so many civilizations out there, why don't we hear from them? Well, here's the thing. Every time you flip a coin, there's a chance that half the universe is split off in a slightly different direction. Like maybe one lands on heads and the other tails, but there are also some where it lands on heads, tails, and so on. A tiny fraction of the universes branch off in a completely different direction. Over time, this leads to huge differences between the timelines. Eventually, there will be timelines where the laws of physics work differently than they do ours. There will be timelines where stars explode one by one until every single star goes out and leaves the universe completely dark. These timelines will continue to split off over time, and eventually they will include timelines where there isn't enough energy for chemistry to occur, let alone life. So even if life does arise in every single universe, it will quickly die out again in most of them. Only the universes where life and technology flourish will remain. So, just by chance, we will end up in a world where we're almost alone. And when you're completely alone, it's hard to contact anyone, especially if you don't know what kind of universe you're in. If the many worlds interpretation is right, we should expect to see more and more evidence of this as time goes on. Since the chances of something happening in one world are so much higher than the chances of it happening in several worlds combined, we should expect to see all kinds of crazy stuff pop up in our own timelines, stuff that seems impossible given the odds. So if you want to see proof of the many worlds interpretation, watch out for miracles. Now check out Why Does Time Go Faster when you're having fun, or click this other video instead.